Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. As the title of the show suggests, we do it nightly, and that includes the weekend, 7 nights a week at 412-575-2600. Hit us up on Twitter or X, at KD Pomp, at Chris Mueller, PGH. Chris is up at 93.7 The Fan as the Steelers get ready for their home opener coming up against Seattle on Sunday. And this is a team that went through practice again today with no Joey Porter Jr. They've already lost a couple of guys on that defense, including Derek Harmon, who will not be there this week. He may be back next. Deshaun Elliott out. They brought in Peppers to take his spot. But overall, this defense has a lot to prove, Chris, on Sunday based on what happened last week. And Seattle's the kind of team that's going to give them a test in the trenches. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, I think Seattle's going to want to run the ball to set up Darnold for some big shots downfield. Jackson Smith and Jigba, obviously a legit big-time number one. That's why they felt comfortable trading DK Metcalf to the Steelers, because they felt like they had their number one receiver. Kenneth Walker is a tough, hard runner. Charbonnet is a good, really good kind of 1-2 punch combo right there. And it's their defensive line, Bob. I know you said they want to test the Steelers in the trenches, but I think it's really testing the Steelers' O-line with their defensive line. Leonard Williams is there. They've got quality really across the front seven. And I don't know how anybody, as optimistic as everyone should feel about the way Aaron Rodgers played in week one, I don't know how anybody could, though, look at that and not be going, uh-oh, because Broderick Jones is still over there covering his blind side. And, you know, he had a horrible game, but the thing that I'm watching more than anything, Bob, is this. If he continues to scuffle, even if it's not 3 sacks allowed and everything else, if they can't trust him reliably to continue to pass protect, but they don't want to bench him, then they start running everything to the right. Every touchdown pass Aaron Rodgers threw was either the little pop to Jonnu Smith or 3 plays where he was moving to his right away from Broderick Jones. And I think what's going to catch up to the Steelers is if Jones can't handle his business, then they're going to become very predictable on offense, because teams know they won't run anything in the passing game that sends Aaron Rodgers on the move to the left.
I think that's an excellent point, and you're exactly right. That's the way they moved, to try to get away, and he still has the ability to get out of there, as far as buying more time. And he has this awareness down the field where he can keep his eyes and go through his reads that way. That's what a veteran of 21 years can do for you, but you're right. That's going to be one of the big things we talk about. DeMarcus Lawrence is over there. They have some real good people who they're up there in age, but they're very good at what they do. And they brought in a number one pick who also has helped on their defensive line. And I think their secondary may be the best part of their defense. You know, they don't talk about it all that much, but I think it may be a challenge this week to go down the field and find guys who are going to be wide open. They may be open. They may have to win some of those contested balls, but I don't think it would be as easy as we saw some of these patterns last week. And I give credit to Arthur Smith and Rodgers for executing it, but I think you're going to find a little bit more difficult down the field.
Well, I think Devin Witherspoon is an ultra-physical number one corner. There's a reason pretty much everybody loved him when he was coming out of Illinois. He is not as big as DK Metcalf, but I assure you he will not have any problem saying, oh, yeah, okay, you're big and tough, fine. Like, that's how I like to play. So that's going to be an interesting matchup to watch. Reek Woolen had a horrible game. I don't know if you saw the highlights or lowlights for him against the Niners, but Brock Purdy looked like he was trying to throw a ball away. Woolen was right there for an interception and just mistimed his jump, and it turned into a touchdown. Right before that, he allowed Ricky Pearsall to get a big catch where he was in position and missed. He's like 6'4", 215, and so he is a freak in terms of size, but I would love to see the Steelers try to exploit him a little bit, because he had a rough game. Maybe send Calvin Austin around, see if he can cover a guy who's like almost a foot shorter than him but a lot faster than him. I want to see Arthur Smith get a little creative in the passing game and try to exploit maybe a potential odd mismatch. I will say, though, Bob, and I think you know this too because you led the show with it, they have to start running the ball through the Steelers. I mean, they cannot afford to have a game play out again, home or road, regardless of opponent in most cases, where Aaron Rodgers has to put the entire team on his back and try to throw 4 touchdowns. That's just not the consistent recipe when the quarterback's 41 years old and still coming off in the not too distant past a major injury.
Absolutely true, and that's why they have to establish it, and I think they'll try to do that early in this game, and I think Seattle was aware of that as well. Meantime, you see our Penn West University, KDKA.com Connect question of the night. Will Sidney Crosby ever be traded from the Penguins? And so far, 69% of you say no, but we're going to talk about that with Chris when I come back. Also, get your calls in now at 412-575-2600. We're going to take those, hear from you on all things Pittsburgh sports, and that would include the Pirates losing 6 in a row. Wow, just after they swept the Dodgers, they lose 6 in a row, and they can't score again. We'll talk about it all next, right here on KDK Plus and 93.7 The Fan. All right, this is our Xfinity tweet of the night. Both Tamar Johnson and Connor Griffin recorded multi-hit games tonight, and boy, he has been on fire, has Griffin. 13 hits in 13 games. In 14 games he's had hits, 348 average. Johnson is coming into his own a little bit, which begs the question, Chris. I could see a scenario, given how much they need hitting, that you could see Connor Griffin, if they're willing to just continue to watch how he has fast-tracked himself to where he is, that he should start the season in Pittsburgh next year. And if so, the question is how effective can he be? But everywhere he's gone so far, he's been very effective very quickly. His numbers for the season are ridiculous. Even if he starts in AAA, I would expect a quick promotion to the Pirates, especially if they don't do all this much in the offseason. Is that realistic to you?
There's a very good chance that the most cost-effective way they could boost their lineup next year, if this continues from Griffin in the minors, is to just call him up in like the start of May. Let him go 1 month in the minors. If he gets a little taste of AAA at the end of this year, then starts the year in AAA and continues to rip it up, bring him up. Come on. You've got a window as long as Paul Skeens is here. Bring him up. Just do the smart thing. Give your fans what they want. Give your team what it needs. Tamar Johnson, I'm less sold on. I will say, though, I'll strike, I guess, an optimistic chord in this way about Connor Griffin. The big question was, how's he going to fare at AA? Because that's usually where you see more legitimate prospects. Right. High A ball, the Greensboro ballpark down there is a known launching pad where offensive numbers tend to be pretty inflated. And so a lot of people wondered if he was going to be able to sustain this. He had, I think, a bumpy start through 2 or 3 games in AA and then has just proceeded to absolutely shred presumably some future major league pitchers at that level. So he looks, I don't want to make this comparison lightly, but when you consider the 5-tool athletic ability, now he's playing shortstop, they think he can play outfield. He just reminds me of a guy like Mike Trout, dude that played a bunch of sports, big, rangy, fast, strong, power, the whole package really. And man, you just hope the Pirates get anything approaching what the Angels got from Trout for the first 6 to 10 years of his career. Griffin will only be here for 5 or 6, but still.
Yeah, but they got to pair them together
on it a little bit.
You got to bring up whatever you got, and you got to go out and also bring in more.
Sure.
However you do it, you got to do it.
Well, I agree with that. I'm actually, since we're talking Pirates, I'm just going to express my gratitude to the Brewers and Orioles for knocking some sense back into anyone that thought this was going to get really wild and crazy at the end of September. I was getting a little tired of maybe they don't need that much. Maybe Ben Cherington is doing a good job. No, you got absolutely smacked around by the best team in the National League probably. And then an Orioles team that's had mostly disappointments all year swept you as well. You suddenly can't score runs. Oh, look, same old Pirates. It's like Scooby-Doo where they would pull off the mask and it would be the bad guy again or whatever. Yep, same old Pirates under there actually, as a matter of fact. So I hope that was a wake-up call to actually Bob Nutting, that if he was starting to get any kind of feelings about the way this team was playing under Don Kelly and generally in the second half, that he watched these 6 games and went, oh, okay, yeah, there is still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, there's no question. Now, they were all one-run games, 2 walk-offs and 1 today, but still, they could have won all 3 based on the pitching, which again is their strength. Their hitting continues to be massively bad, and that's the problem. And they have to solve it, and if they don't, they're going to end up with the same situation next year. All right, let's go to the phone lines. 412-575-2600. Chris, we begin in Verona. We have Anthony. Hello, Anthony. How are you? Anthony.
Is he playing classical music? I love it.
Yeah, well, he's not supposed to be playing anything. He's supposed to be listening, and he's not. So, Anthony, we're going to have to give you a mulligan, maybe. Let's get back to our Penn West University question, because I wanted to bring this up anyway. Would Sidney Crosby ever be traded from the Penguins? Most people say no. It's 62 to 38%. I've always thought that this whole thing comes down to Sidney Crosby. It doesn't matter. If the Penguins want to go to him and say, we want to trade you, that's not that's not what should happen. What should happen is if Sidney Crosby, and again, his agent opened this can of worms by bringing out these scenarios where he needs to play in high leverage games, and he absolutely should. He doesn't want to end his career not making the playoffs. It's already been 3 years in a row. It could be 4, 5, or more than that, because these turnarounds, are difficult to do. Kyle Dubas, on the other hand, has started a rebuild. He started it, but he's not completing it because he still has assets on his team like Rickard Rakell, like Brian Rust, like Erik Karlsson, like Chris Letang, who are all, to the point now where they could be used to attract more. However, if Sidney Crosby's here, you don't want that to happen because he doesn't want to skate with a bunch of, guys who are just proving themselves. So where do you think this ends? And it may not be now, but it may be at some point that Sidney Crosby, reflects on this situation and goes to them respectfully and says, look, I can do you a favor and you can do me a favor. Put me someplace where I can win and play high stakes poker, and then you can get stuff for me that would help you rebuild.
I thought that there was probably no way he was ever going to get traded, and until this week, that was a pretty much 100% belief on my part. I think now the door is at least ajar, even if it's only 5% or whatever, that he could get traded someday. I mean, here, work this through hypothetically, Bob. We know how close he is with Evgeny Malkin. They've played together for almost 2 full decades, right? Malkin's going to retire. This is his swan song year with the Penguins. Let's say they're really bad again, and he retires, and he's done. He's off to Russia or just off to retirement overall. And then it's Chris Letang and Crosby are the 2 left of the big 3. And Chris Letang, I think the rumors have always swirled, would be willing or theoretically willing at least to waive his no-movement clause to play somewhere else. Well, if that starts to happen, then you're Crosby. You've got 4 years in a row. You haven't made the playoffs. You're one of your 2 maybe closest friends, or maybe your closest friend on the team. The guy you accomplished all this with is out of the NHL. What tethers do you have other than a sense of loyalty, sure, and it's a strong one, that you have to this city and the franchise? I mean, the guy grew up a Canadiens fan.
Yep.
And if you're Kyle Dubas and he would at least consider being traded to the Canadiens, why wouldn't you hold their feet to the fire and demand a king's ransom? I mean, they are desperate to get him up there. Pat Brisson, all but telegraphed that and said, yeah, we believe he should play somewhere where they are in the playoffs every year. And then he kept saying Montreal, even though Montreal would probably not be a playoff team after they gave up a ton to get Sid. If you're Kyle Dubas, you have to at least, Bob, consider it, because it might be a prudent course of action if things don't improve this year and the rebuild doesn't look accelerated.
And the Canadiens have a lot of nice talent in their system. They have a nice talent at the major level at this point with the Canadian teams themselves. They can do a lot, and they've pretty much gone on record saying we will move heaven and earth to make that possible. And if he should go to Montreal, and that seems the most likely thing. I mean, Crosby's dad was drafted by them as a goalie. That's part of what I think you saw at the Four Nations when he was introduced, and everything went nuts. And he, again, delivered a good performance. He's going to play in the Olympics. He wants those high-stake games. I think that would make sense. But it won't be the only place. That if this comes out and people see around the league, Chris, that they have an opportunity maybe to get Sidney Crosby somehow, some way, this may open the door for other teams. And there are not many that make sense to me, but there are a few out there that possibly could. It would just depend on what they look like. I want to go back to the phone lines because we have a lot of people, and I want to get them on as soon as I can here. Is this Rue? I can't read that. In North Oakland?
Yes, this is me.
All right, go ahead, ma'am.
I just want to say that, yes, this is me. I just want to say that, Darius Slay was out there looking his age against that touchdown against the Jets. And we got, people that, like Beanie Bishop. Why is he sitting on the back?
Listen, it's one game. I don't think Slay was very good. I want to move on to Anthony Verona, we're giving him a mulligan. Chris, he's taking it. Let's see what he can do. Instead of hitting one left or right, he could hit it down the middle. Go ahead, Anthony.
Yay! Because they're not going to win no games.
The door for other teams. All right, thank you very much, Anthony. Let's get back to the other conversation about Sidney
2 out of bounds off the tee for Anthony and Verona.
There's enough to have one mulligan But you can't have
shank left?
tracer technology going right and then left and out of bounds, and that's what we've gotten so far.
He's fighting a two-way miss, and you know what? If I were gonna diagnose the problem here, Bob, it's not early extension. It's turn your TV or radio off, Anthony in Verona.
All right. Do you think? Again, this situation with Montreal seems to be the most likely if it does happen. They would love to have him there. And I think that would help them get to where they want to go, at least into the playoffs. I think they have a good roster there. But there are other teams that may sense, maybe he wants to play high-stakes games. This is the place to do it. A lot of people have associated Nathan McKinnon, who's from the same area, in Cole Harbour, Nova Scotia. But there are teams, I could name a few of them that I think would make sense or they would be interested, depending on what you'd offer or get in return.
Well, remember, he gets to control, though. He's got the no movement clause,
right.
So he gets to control where he goes. I mean, that's the bottom line.
But it's also
here.
his
And
choice.
If he doesn't want to go.
If he doesn't want to get traded, he doesn't have to get traded.
Well, here's the other thing, too. I mean, this is where it gets dangerous for the Penguins. Say he does want to get dealt, and the Canadiens don't want to give a big return at first. And Kyle Dubas says, well, wait a minute, I want this or that. Or Crosby wants to play playoff games. Let's put it in these terms. And he kind of nudges the Penguins to take less than they could get in a deal because he doesn't want the Canadiens to be strip-mined to bring him in. His no-movement clause comes into play and could suddenly get a little dicey behind the scenes. But, I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves here. There's a very good chance he just wants to ride out the storm here. Although I do think Brisson mentioning Tom Brady over and over again as a comparison is no accident.
That's a clue.
Let's put it that way.
I totally agree with that. We got to take a break on that note. 412-575-2600. Call us and turn your TVs down when you do. A lot of people, I'm sure, watching Thursday Night Football, and what they're watching is a Green Bay Packers team that looks very impressive. I thought they were going to be real good, even without Micah Parsons. Now that he's there, they were my pick to win the Super Bowl this year, and they're not disappointing me. I haven't seen an update, but from what I watched before I came down here, it was one-sided in favor of Green Bay against a good Washington team.
Yeah, they're up 24-10, I believe, at last check, and that's with Jaden Reed, one of their better receivers, going out with an injury in the first quarter. They look ridiculously strong. They struck with the big trade, and I'm certainly thinking that if anybody could dethrone the Eagles, who I still think are stacked in the NFC, it looks like a Packers team that's very frisky and had a chance maybe to make some noise against them in the playoffs, and will get potentially another crack at it. Anytime you can add a guy of Parsons' vintage, Bob, and you can add him to a team that has a lot of other pieces in place, I think you automatically become a short-list contender.
No question about that. And, the Eagles are always looking to make moves. And I don't want to get into this because we're almost out of town. But Brown looks like he may be available. Everybody talks about wide receivers, and Tyreek Hill's situation is a little complicated. We'll do this again as we reconvene whenever we do, Chris, because we're out of time. So thank you very much, as always. I appreciate that. And next time those people out there call, please turn your TVs down so we can have a conversation. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us right here on KDKA Plus and Almost Nights 93.7 The Fan. It's the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're always happy to have your opinions. Good night.